The Michigan football team is currently doing something we've never seen before, and to be quite honest, I can't believe nobody's talking about this or they haven't even spoken about it. I know exactly what you're probably sitting there thinking. Yo Matt, what in the world are you talking about? Trust me, you already know. We're gonna break it down and talk all about it, and it's really interesting. It's really interesting, at least for me, because you wouldn't even think something like this is possible. But first, real quick, if you're new to the channel and you like college football content, what are you doing? Join the family, hit that subscribe button, and leave a like for more. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Throwing it all the way back to the year 2015, this was Jim Harbaugh's first season at Michigan. I remember this moment vividly. You had a ton of analysts and many people out there in general saying he's going to be the next Nick Saban, and well, we saw how that turned out. Where Michigan went wrong, and more in particular, their fan base went wrong, was they set the bar and expectations way too high for this man. To give Harbaugh some credit, the expectations were so high because he's an outstanding coach. His last season at Stanford, he led that team to a 12-1 record, and in the NFL, he wasn't too bad. In Michigan's first season, they went 10-3, and everybody was like, okay, a good solid warm-up year, but in 2016, they also went 10-3. For any other ball club, coach, and program, 10-3, you'll take that, but not for Michigan and Harbaugh. The biggest dilemma and problem was he didn't beat Ohio State, and that's the game you gotta win. Following that 2016 season, he had a drop-off and went 8-5. He bounced back from that, went 10-3 in 2018, and 9-4 in 2019. Of course, he wasn't winning national championships, and they weren't where they would like to be, but there was an even bigger problem than that. They couldn't beat Ohio State. It seems like I'm keying in on Ohio State, but it's not just them. He couldn't win any of the big-time games. Without a doubt in my mind, that was his biggest flaw at Michigan up to this point. He would win the games he was supposed to win, but every time there was a primetime matchup or a big game in general that everyone was saying this could change his legacy and his resume, he would fold under the pressure. I remember too, at the end of 2019, you had many people out there questioning if he was the right guy for the job. And then what followed after that season was complete chaos and the rock bottom for Jim Harbaugh's coaching career. In 2020, I understand all the COVID problems and yada yada yada, but still, they weren't the only ones dealing with it. Everyone had to deal with it. The 2020 season was a detriment to his coaching career, and it looked bad, and that's all there is to it. It wasn't just bad, it was somewhat embarrassing if you had to ask me. I don't understand how you could draw comparisons to Nick Saban, and then in 2020, you have that terrible of a season. I want to make this extremely clear. It's not the fact they went 2-4, it's how they looked on the field. They got blown, and let me re-emphasize that, absolutely blown off the field against Wisconsin, 49-11. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about a 40-point loss. That's unacceptable. Losing, it's never okay, but it's going to happen. But a 40-point loss should never happen. To follow that up, they struggled against a Rutgers team 48-42 who's never been good, and they lost to Penn State 27-17. Once again, like I said, it wasn't the fact they lost 4 games, it was the way they were looking on the field and the way they were losing. It looked like some of the players didn't want to be out there. They were playing uninspired football. I don't know if that had to do with no fans or what was going on, but I'm sure that had a play in it. I can't give them the COVID excuse too much because at the end of the day, everybody had to deal with it. Things with Michigan and Harbaugh were looking pretty rough. They even had to restructure his contract, and there was some serious negotiations going on about firing him and asking him to leave. He wound up taking less money. They restructured his contract, and many out there thought if he performed the way he did last year in 2020, this could be his last season. It's really funny how, not just in sports, but life in general, how quickly your life can change. Fast forward in time to 2021, a year after that terrible season last year and people were calling for his job, he's now the coach of the year. How does one man go from a lot of people wanting him fired and getting him out of there to now being the coach of the year? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. How does one said team go from losing 49-11, almost 40 points, to only a year later, you're competing for a national championship? Unless I'm missing something, I've never seen a case of something like this happening. And you want to know what's even more mind-boggling? You would think, well, maybe they got some 5-star running back, 5-star quarterback. No, most of the guys on this team that are 12-1 are the same guys from last year. I don't know if they started taking steroids, started drinking Michael Jordan secret stuff, or what's going on up in Ann Arbor, but they're doing something right. Also, too, I gotta throw in there, if you watch college football, especially Michigan, you would know they should really be 13-0. They outplayed Michigan State in every aspect of the game. Somehow they lost. I'm still confused after watching that game how they blew it. That game was only roughly, 5 to 6 weeks ago? After they blew that game, you had everybody riding this team off saying, oh, yep, there we go, Michigan, John Harbaugh, losing to a team they shouldn't have lost to. Everybody in the country was riding them off, saying Ohio State's going to clobber them, CJ Stroud's going to throw for 600 yards, and Ohio State's going to get to the playoff again. I didn't see a single soul pick Michigan against Ohio State. Not only that, I'll go farther, I didn't see anyone give them a chance. Against Ohio State, it wasn't a fluke win. They deserved to win. They outplayed them by far. That was a win the Michigan fan base and program they needed. They haven't beat Ohio State in what? Has it been 7 or 8 years? Something like that. As happy as I was for Michigan fans, and I know you guys were happy too, I was somewhat happy for Jim Harbaugh. Everyone has counted him out, saying he can't win against his rivals, Michigan State and Ohio State. So I was happy to see him get the win. He got out of that hump and narrative, and you know it was lingering over his head. Once you get out of that slump and hump, you can really do anything. Could this be the start to Michigan coming back to their glory days and dominating the Big Ten? I guess we'll have to wait and see. I don't see why not, and if you've been watching Michigan the past couple of seasons, they're always 1 to 2 games away. It's not like Jim Harbaugh's been in rebuild mode every year. They're always competing. I gotta re-emphasize this. How does a team go from 2-4 to 12-1? Like, what? Especially without having a major quarterback change or any other major 5-star recruits coming in. If I had to describe this Michigan football team, they're gritty and they're old school. Nobody wants to play them in the trenches. Even if they lose against Georgia in the playoffs, this was still a win of a season and it was a step in the right direction. The real question of this video and the overall Michigan program is, can they keep this up? I definitely don't see this season as a fluke year, but I gotta see more out of them on a consistent basis year in and year out to put them up there with Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, and all the others. If Michigan goes out there next year, goes 11-1, 12-1, something like that, then I'll be like, okay, now we're talking. I gotta see more out of this team, I gotta see more out of Harbaugh, and it's gotta be more consistent. One thing's for sure, and I know this 100%, that game against Georgia coming up, it's gonna be a great one. Maybe one of the best of all time. You got 2 defensive heavyweights and 2 not so great offenses. I would be shocked if one team gets 30 points. I would predict something right now. This ain't my final prediction, but I'd say, I mean, it could be in the teens, but it more than likely is going to be in the 20s. You're probably going to see something like a 24-21 game, or it could be 17-10, 17-14. You never know at college football. We could be completely wrong, and it could be 40-36. 36 ain't right, but 40-30 something. You get what I'm trying to say. I haven't seen anyone give Michigan the respect they deserve for having this great season. I guess because the year's not over, but I'm going to do it now. Even if they lose to Georgia, it was a great year. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. I'm very curious, but with all that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. If you're new to the channel, what you doing? Join the family, hit that subscribe button, and leave a like for more. And as always, let's be great. I'm out, y'all. Peace.